I was an assistant chief of police, actually, on my way home from work, and a man had stabbed 2 women in a tavern in Bakersfield. We thought it was a double fatal. Ultimately, one of them did live. And as I was leaving the scene and kind of heading home, there was a call about a guy trying to steal a vehicle, and when I got there was the guy who still had the knife and he wouldn't give it up. So I ended up shooting him. I am concerned about the way they're armed. They are armed with a handgun. They don't have ready access to long rifles. Some people see that as offensive to rifles. The fact is, a long rifle is much more accurate than a handgun. If you ever had an incident where an officer had to resort to a firearm, I would prefer, if it's readily accessible, that the officer be using a long rifle than a handgun if we're talking about any distance whatsoever.
So we're going to be buying these rifles for all cops, certain units?
No, every cop that's out there, the cop that's out there at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning is just as likely to need that weapon as the SWAT officer. They need to be properly trained and properly equipped. And like I say, they may never use those. We may go years and years in New Haven, and the officers may never have to use one of those rifles. But the one time that they need to use that rifle to protect the community and protect themselves, they, 1, need to be trained with it, and 2, they need to have access. Every place I've been, we've had canines.
We had one till Ray and the other guy retired, right?
Yeah. Well, that was a bomb canine.
Oh.
But even patrol canines, historically they got kind of a negative connotation because how they were used in the 60s in crowd control. The new methods for training dogs are bark and hold, not bark and bite, and so they don't bite near as often as they used to. But you can clear a building literally in a fraction of the time with a canine, like a burglary. If you get a false alarm or an alarm in a burglary, it can take an hour or so for multiple officers to really search a building and still don't search it as effectively as a dog can search that building in 10 minutes. And so they can cut down, they can track the lost kids, so they're a very valuable tracking tool. They can be cross-trained for either bombs or narcotics, and they're phenomenal.
Is there a fear, though, that you cut to be seen more as a military force than a community policing force? If you're more heavily armed, you have dogs around, or people are going to be intimidated by the police rather than feeling they're comfortable, that they're on their side?
Well, I think we have to convince them that's part of the issue of having to convince the public. If you were to have a shooter with an assault rifle on top of a building, or even in the middle of the green, and the police officers could not adequately respond to that with handguns. In other words, from 100 yards away or 75 yards away, their odds of hitting that guy are pretty slim with a handgun. And possibility even those rounds could hit innocent people. Does a citizen want them to be able to adequately respond to that danger, or do they not? And so I'm not sure that that's a military response. It's a professional, efficient. I went in Pomona.
What happened?
Not me personally, but we had an incident where shortly after we issued out the AR-15s.
So you brought those there too?
Yes. And, well, they had some, but we equipped them, even their motorcycles have AR-15s in Pomona. Officers responded to an incident where a respondent boyfriend had broken into the house and was dragging his girlfriend out and had the gun to her head. And he had her in a headlock and was trying to force her in a vehicle, and he was going to take her out in the country. And everyone, her, family members, everyone after the incident was convinced he would have killed her if he would have gotten her out to the country. As the officers arrived, an officer from about 40, 50 yards away with an AR-15 shot him in the head and killed him. If he had tried that same shot with a handgun, the likelihood of him making that shot is very, very slim at night. And he may have hit her, or he may have missed them both, and then he would have shot her. I mean, you can only guess what the end result would be, but he took one shot from a long distance, and everyone was convinced at that scene that he saved her life. And that was a classic example of what a handgun would have been. I would not have wanted to take that shot with a handgun in dog fighting quite a distance. That officer took with that rifle.
Have you, when you